Hi, this is Bob Scully, and welcome to another edition of the World Show, Entrepreneurs, the Fiera Series. This week, a special treat because our guest is an expatriate from Liverpool, a fascinating city, which of course has given rise to many achievements. But no, Kevin Dee is not the fifth Beatle. He could have been, though. He loves music, he knows it well, and he has that great modesty and sense of humor that the Beatles often showed in their interviews. But our topic will be Eagle Professional Resources, the company that he has built, a company specialized in, as they say in their literature, high altitude staffing. And in Canada, we have a competition that is quite meaningful when evaluating startups or companies built by entrepreneurs. It's called Canada's 50 Best Managed Companies. And one very important trait of this competition is you can enter it over and over, and that way they can measure if you've got staying power. And indeed, Eagle has won it so many times, they now have platinum status. Canada's Best Corporate Cultures is another valued award, and again, Eagle has won it, and all this due to the efforts of a great team led by our guest, Kevin Dee. Here he is. Kevin Dee, it's my duty sometimes to ask the tough questions, so I need to know, are you the fifth Beatle?
I guess I could be if I could sing, but coming from Liverpool, the Beatles obviously are an icon, and more my brother's age.
Yeah, I was going to say though, your brother actually did go see them.
Yes. Yeah.
That when you read Liverpool in somebody's bio, immediately, obviously, you think of them.
Yeah, they're certainly synonymous with the city.
And it is a city, I'm told, I've never been, of great poetry, and the Irish. My grandfather was actually lived there at some point in the Irish community. Yeah. So do you miss it?
Do I miss Liverpool? I left there very young. I was 16 when I left Liverpool. So there's aspects of it that I'm very proud of. I have a Liverpool tattoo. I'm glad to be from there, but I wouldn't go back to live there.
And I read in the research, when you do go back, since some of your positions are quote unquote to the right of Genghis Khan on sick days and stuff like that, and they are very left wing, your family.
Yes.
So Christmas dinner is kind of touchy. We try to avoid some subjects, yes, for sure. But it's not surprising to me that somebody coming from Europe, which was always a little bit more rule bound and sort of stodgy than North America, would appreciate the freedom to work and the responsibility that goes with it in North America. You built your own business kind of on the impetus of that energy.
It's for comment. I mean, I grew up in a very working class environment, and you grow up with the feeling that you have limits, and I felt still a class society in the UK, and certainly coming to Canada, it was really your destiny's in your own hands. It takes a while to figure that out, but when you get that, it's very freeing. It's great. And
the field that you picked, of course, it must have existed in previous decades under other names, but still a very modern profession, I find. Recruitment, and it's not executive search exactly, no. But it's recruitment, staffing, and so on.
Yes.
How did you come to that?
By accident, like most people. In fact, if you ask anybody in the staffing industry if they went to university with the objective of getting into the staffing industry, you will find nobody. So everybody seems to fall into this field. Yeah, it's a fantastic field and with great opportunity. I was asked to run a division that was in the staffing space, and when I was asked to do that, I thought my boss was out of his mind. It wasn't something I was interested in doing. It was not something I felt qualified to do, but that's kind of how I got into it. And 2 years later, we actually bought that division to form Eagle. That's how I got into it.
And you have also formed a power couple. That is interesting, because entrepreneurship it's very often about families,
right.
But usually it's the family you have, not the family you choose.
Right.
It's siblings or father or son or daughter. But here it's your life mate.
Yep.
She's the COO.
Yes.
And you're the CEO. And it has lasted all these years.
I like to tell people she's the brains and I'm the big mouth. When we started, she worked for competition. She worked for IBM, and that was actually tougher when we were bidding on large projects against each other. That made for some interesting non-discussions at home.
I didn't know IBM was active in recruitment.
No, that was when she was in the system integration space, and I was also in the system integration space.
Okay.
And then that company asked me to run the staffing division for them.
And you had to have a Chinese wall across the kitchen?
Yes. What did you do today, dear? Can't tell you.
For real?
For real. It was.
Hard to...
In fact, there were times when if a large contract had been won, and we were both working in Ottawa, where there were large government contracts, multi-million-dollar contracts, and if IBM won one or Anderson Consulting, my company, won one, there were questions asked. Did you talk? Did you pass information? It was
because
really,
they knew your spouse was
with
a competitor.
And there weren't real questions. They were from people who had an axe to grind or whatever. But it was tough.
And so you were relieved when she joined your firm.
Well, eventually, but when we started Eagle, the goal was she was going to stay with IBM for a while, so we'd have at least one paycheck that would be safe. She lasted a month.
But that's a good sign.
It was a good sign, but it was a bit scary. I mean, we weren't really safe yet. It took a while to get safe. So, but yeah, we're a good team. We made it happen.
And when I was reading the research, I had pigeonholed this at first in headhunting, which is the term used for, and I thought, okay, this is a variation on headhunting, but the more I read, I realized, no, this is something else. Let's compare that for people watching.
Yes.
It's not you do some headhunting, but that's not your main thrust.
Not the main thrust. The main thrust is providing a flexible workforce for our clients. So clients have a need for talent, whether for a project or for special engagements, time dependent, so it might be a 2-year project that they don't want to staff up with employees for, so they come to people like us to provide them with independent contractors or temporary employees. So currently we would have about 1,000 people out on those kinds of engagement with clients across the country.
And does that mean that you sort of dampen the expectation of the people that you're placing there? You break the bad news up front to them, guys, this is 2 years. If you're joining this project, it's 2 years. Don't hope it'll turn into a job. Is it that kind of?
There's two types of things. The independent contractors are their own company. So they're one-person companies. Their expectations are always contract. They don't want to become full-time employees. And then we have temporary employees, and they often will have an objective to become an employee. And some of the statistics I read suggest that temporary employees, about 80% of them will find full-time work through multiple temporary engagements. So it works for everybody.
They get to prove their mettle.
They prove the mettle, and often clients want to try before they buy or those kinds of things, and it works well.
And not to be Pollyannish about it, they probably work better because there is that hope.
There's a hope, yeah. They're willing to put their best foot forward, and they want to do the best so that they can get hired on.
And it's up to you, of course, to evaluate these people. That's something you do have in common with headhunters.
Exactly.
Headhunters, I think, had to guarantee for a year, and if it didn't work out, they weren't paid, or they had to find someone else. You are held to some kind of standard like that?
Same kind of standards. If we're placing temporary employees and they don't work out, then we're expected to bring another one in instead. And the client has a need for somebody to do the job. They look to us to get them that person.
But volume is different in this case. The scale is different.
Yeah.
I know headhunters keep a Rolodex, so it used to be a Rolodex, now it's on computer, of likely people to head banks or to head other kinds of companies, but it's tens or maybe hundreds of names, no more. In your case, the numbers are multiplied. You have to have armies on file.
We have a database of probably 250,000 people.
Holy cow.
On file, of which that we're always trying to develop relationships with the ones that we think are going to be in demand within that.
Where did you get them?
We've been in business 19 years, so it's been a growing event, if you like. And the way we get them today is we have a very active job board on our website. We get about 5,000 resumes a month coming in, applying for jobs that way.
People come to you.
Yeah, and we will go out and search through the various social media tools and through job boards to look for candidates as well that we will pull into our database. And the intent is to find the kinds of people that we know our clients are going to be looking for. So in the perfect world, we're finding them before they're asking us for them.
And is it institutions mainly?
We deal with very large companies, and typically, so most of the banks, oil and gas companies, 3 levels of government, telecom companies, utilities companies. Those.
And they typically, coming to you, would want it to be limited in time.
Yeah, any large employer will always have reasons why they will want to be able to add to their workforce in a temporary manner. They want flexibility, whether it's a project or whether it's a point in time of the year when they need more people. There's many reasons why people need that kind of flexibility.
And when the job ends, when the mandate ends, it's like a ship coming to port, the crew leaves.
Yep.
How is that handled? I mean, even though a lot of these people may expect it, as a matter of fact, they do expect it.
Yep.
I mean, layoffs are the most painful thing. This is not far from layoffs. How is it handled?
It's very unlike a layoff. A layoff is an unexpected event, usually because, a company has to reduce its cost. In this case, there's an expectation set up front that this is a project or a period of time when that independent contractor or temporary employee is required, and they get paid for that period of time. When it finishes, they get their next job. So for us, as we know people are becoming available towards the end of their contracts, we're looking for the next gig for them.
And it's almost as if you are working for the clients, namely the companies that hire. They're the ones that pay you, I assume.
Yeah.
But it's almost as if you're also working for some of these people that come to you, placing them, doing a service for them. But you can't bill both ways, obviously.
No, we always get paid by the client. It's illegal to be paid, to ask an individual to pay you to find them a job in Canada.
It is?
Yeah.
Why? You'd be, if you did it, you'd be like an agent, a theatrical agent.
Yeah, it's well.
As long as
there's a concern about employees who are in precarious situations, and governments don't want companies to take advantage of people. So, for instance, if you think of new immigrants coming to Canada,
yes, of course, yeah.
It would be easy for them to be taken advantage of by unscrupulous companies. It happens, but it's just not part of the industry that I belong to.
And so you, for instance, if I'm I'm a hospital and I'm opening a new wing, but I only have funding for 3 years for the new wing, and I need 300 people, I can come and see you and reasonably expect I'll be staffed in how long?
Well, if you're a hospital, you'd be coming probably to one of my competitors who deals in that kind of space, and they'd take a really long time.
Okay, all right. I'm a school, or I'm something else.
Yeah, we supply mostly technology people, so we will have a large projects, and client might come to us and say we want 30 people. The project's going to be starting, and we can have people to them very fast. So it can go in hours, it can be a few days. It can be sometimes weeks. So mostly it's dependent more on the client's process than on us. We can get them people fast. It's whether they can go through their whole hiring cycle fast enough.
And I assume budgets and negotiation of conditions is not a very drawn out process. If somebody comes to you and says, I've got 40 jobs to give, here's what they pay. Yeah. It's take it or leave it. You turn around and...
We will advise them back. If they're saying this is what we're prepared to pay, and we know it's a very hot market, and we might be able to say to them, well, we'll do what we best. If that's what you can do, that's what you can do. But you have to recognize that in the market today, you probably should be paying this. And we'll give them that kind of feedback. But at the end of the day, the client will determine what they're willing to pay, and then we go away and work with that and find candidates to fit.
And are you ever in charge of the payroll? Or would any company give you the payroll and have you dole it out, or you stay away from that? And
all the people that work through us, we pay.
Oh, you pay them. I see. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you do handle the payroll.
So we handle all the payroll for temporary employees, but it's not payroll with independent contractors. They're an independent company. So I have a business-to-business relationship with them. They bill me for, 40 hours at $50 an hour. I pay them. And then I turn around and bill the client for that plus my piece.
But for instance, payroll deductions and so on, in the case of employees,
we do all that.
You handle all of that.
Yeah.
And your commission is lumped in there,
yeah.
vis-a-vis the employer.
Exactly.
And so this gives you what's known in business as a float. This gives you some nice cash to handle
Yeah.
to keep your own business going.
Yep. It's a cash type business, so you're paying out a lot of money every month, and then you're billing clients every month too. So, in recent years, one of the big challenges has been big clients have a lot of clout, and big clients is who we tend to deal with, and so they push out their payment terms and push out their payment terms.
So you're using up your float yourself for your own purposes.
Exactly. So we'll be paying all these people very quickly, and then we're waiting to get paid by our clients. It used to be 30 days, and then becomes 45 days, even longer sometimes.
Well, in America, I'm told right now, some of the larger corporations are at 180 days, which is half the year.
And that's kind of crazy.
And what happens if you get stiff, though? Do you have a revolt at the palace gates? Will you honor that vis-a-vis the people who worked?
Yeah, we pay the people. They're paid quickly, so they're already paid.
So if you get stiffed, you're getting stiffed.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not.
Does that happen?
We have not had that in 19 years. We haven't had that. We have a very low bad debt ratio. So.
And I assume you pick your clients. You don't take just anybody.
No, we focus on large organizations, and it has typically been the smaller ones where we've had payment problems.
And when you evaluate people, as you're collecting your all your documentation on possible employees that you're going to recommend, as you say, you do it ahead of time so you're ready.
Yep.
But still, that must be pretty painstaking because it has to be face to face. You have good psychologically inclined recruiters, I assume, who can sit and interview people.
Yep, that's their business. That's what they do. They are interviewing people. These days, there's a lot of video interviewing that goes on, Skype, that kind of thing. Anything that will make the process faster. It's a very fast-paced industry.
And is the rejection rate on your part high? In other words, do your recruiters know when to turn down a bad apple?
Yeah.
How do you tell a bad apple?
Well, there's a million tells for bad apples. We used to go to job fairs all the time, and so, hundreds of people would be coming by a booth to give you a resume and introduce themselves, and it was always an interesting experience.
I'm sure.
You get to meet all kinds of people, but we see doctored resumes, and it's quite obvious they've been doctored.
Oh.
We see people who can't give us references. We see gaps in resumes. We see skills that don't make sense. We'll see experience that doesn't make sense. We'll see people that have very nicely written resumes, but when you have a conversation with them, they can't string two words together. There are a lot of tells about why people aren't necessarily who you think they might be.
Now that's on the facts and on competence, but I'm thinking also of character.
Yeah.
Can you tell the closet alcoholic or the closet hysteric or the closet anger management case?
Nobody can. I think all you can do is you can do reference checks, and that reference checks will reveal a lot. So you do the reference checks of the people that they give you, but you also will know, okay, this is somebody I'd like to dig a bit more on. You find somebody that worked with them or somebody they worked for, and you ask them for references.
And do you have the opposite, champions, thoroughbreds, people that everybody loves and
yes,
and they ask for again and again?
Yeah, we do. We have they're great people, and when times are tough, those people might become available, and those are the people we're going to our clients with and saying, hey, you got a chance to grab this guy right now. He's going to be gone again in a week, so you better grab them.
And on the A list, they cost more. If those people realize you like them a lot, and the employers like them a lot, does their price go up? The differentials here are left to you, really.
Not commensurately. If you're a project manager, you're a project manager. So there's a range of rates for project managers. It's not defined. It's going to be $90 an hour. It could be between $90 and $100 an hour, in which case the A players are more at the 100 level than at the 90 level, that kind of thing.
And when you expand and get your new clients, do you have to, the people come to you to be on your list.
Yep.
But how about the clients? Do they automatically come to you? Does the phone ring on its own, or are you cold calling and knocking on doors?
I'm no sales guy, no. I've never known the phone to ring.
No?
Never.
It must.
No, not like that. Not in terms of, hey, we need a supplier. So, and in fact,
so you go around, you have to drum up the business.
we go out and drum the business. In fact, our process is, huge companies will have a big marketing campaign and they'll get their name out there a lot more. Eagle's name is not everywhere. So what we do is we'll identify this is the next set of clients we would like to go after. And it may take several years to get them. But we will, identify this big client and say, okay, how do we get into that client? We find out who the decision makers are, we go to meet with them, we tell them what our value proposition is and talk to them about what's working for them and what's not working for them. Try to bring them value and information about the industry, information about their industry, and things that will give them some sense that, hey, these are people worth talking to. And then over time you build credibility, and they might have an RFP process, or they might say, oh, we'll give you a try, those kind of things. And then you kind of work your way in. And
does pricing enter into it? As the business model works, again, I go back to headhunting because that's all I'd ever heard about. It was 20% of the salary, but the person had to be good for at least a year.
Right.
What is the pricing structure in your business?
The pricing structure varies. I mean, it's a very skinny business. Prices have been skinned down or skinny down over the years.
Because there's so many employees.
Yeah. So you're talking these days, huge clients, when you got large volume, you're talking probably 15% margins. So 85% of our revenues goes out the door before we see a penny. To the worker, yeah.
And you keep 15, but that of course has to pay everything.
That has to pay for, technology, office space, all the salaries. Salaries is our biggest cost, of course.
And does the well ever run dry, like in a recession and so on? Have you had terrible times when?
We've had some tough times, some really tough times. I mean, the last recession was tough everywhere. When oil price drops, you get issues, those kind of things. There's tough times, but we haven't had a time where we've been so worried that we're, going to go bankrupt or anything like that. So we've.
And I noticed you have an internet product called Virtual Recruiter, and I thought he's competing with himself here. But probably it's business he couldn't get otherwise. It's really a do-it-yourself kit that you're selling to companies.
Exactly. And so very often companies, most companies want to do it themselves if they can. They don't want to pay something like a service, a big fee to find them an employee if they can find it themselves. So we offer this service which takes advantage of our brand and our website and allows them to do a lot of it themselves for a very small fee. And if it works for them and they can get volume or get, specific engagements filled without having to pay a fee, that's a value add to them. And then they say, oh, these guys are pretty good. So when they get a need for other stuff, they come back to us.
Then they come to you. Yeah. Well, Kevin Dee, in the research I also read that when you go back to Liverpool, you are super careful because you're to the right of Genghis Khan, the very words I read there, on things like sick days and so on. And I thought, attaboy, bring me to your Christmas dinner. I'm the same way on sick days. I don't take them. So long life to you and to Liverpool.
Thank you.
And of course to Eagle.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Cheers, Bob.